Hey, everybody, it's me. It's your old buddy Steve Simonson. And here I am at long last after another long duration in between recordings to record a little bit of an awesomers.com podcast. We're going to do a audio version of this. So if you're listening to the audio, that's how you can know that we did it. We're also going to do a video version that's happening both live and will be available for playback on the normal places, the YouTubes and the other places that show videos. So the reason I'm doing this is I want to just catch people up. I released a bunch of podcasts in December of last year, something like 30 of them, 31 in 31 days, and that was well met. If you haven't listened to the Founders Foundations podcast series that talks about what it takes to become a CEO in an entrepreneurial world, go check that out. But to be honest with you, I have been completely consumed since December with AI stuff. So from the moment that ChatGPT was released to the consumers in late November, roughly, I've been playing with it, trying to figure out what it's all about. And with the amount of news that was coming out about it, I was skeptical. I'll be honest. I was like, it sounds like a fidget spinnery kind of headline series. You know, everybody's into it. How good could it be? But it was not long before we figured out, it could do more than write dirty limericks. That we realized, holy crap, it's here. The future's now arrived. During the last, let's say, 4.5, 5 months, I've really spent a great deal of time trying to figure out what are the practical applications and the, let's call it, overall ramifications, right? So you've heard of ChatGPT. If you haven't, I'm surprised. And even if you have heard of it but don't know what it is, we're not going to get into details too much. But it's a large language model, so-called LLM, that helps people interact with this AI. They call it a chatbot, but it's really just a information engine. You've seen lots of news about, well, now Bing has it incorporated into its website. So if you go to bing.com and you have the Edge browser, which is the Microsoft version of Chrome, actually, you'll be able to check that out and see it kind of live if you haven't already. Along the way, Google has said, oh, no, we're in the game too. And just recently, Amazon said, oh, don't forget about us. We're also doing this. And whether they're right or wrong, so far their public statements and their demos or their, let's say, press releases have come up short in terms of credibility. Whereas ChatGPT just put it out there and said, yeah, just test us. And it released basically with 3.5 turbo to the public. Maybe it was 3 at that time, but it almost immediately went to 3.5 turbo. And now it's on ChatGPT 4. Each of these is an incredible series of jumps forward. So what I've been led to believe is that ChatGPT 3, so note that 3.5 would be some version between 3 and 4, that ChatGPT 3 was based on somewhere around 175 billion data points. And now ChatGPT 4 is based on closer to 100 trillion data points. Now, again, I've said this before, I'm not in the boardroom at OpenAI to find out these exact numbers. These are reported numbers to give a scale of the jump that has become ChatGPT 4. I have tested Bard. It pales at this point by comparison. Bard is the Google version or Google's answer to ChatGPT. Now, Google has a lot of technology. So does Facebook and many of these other tech companies. So I don't have any doubt that ChatGPT will have multiple competitors come out that will be as good or better than them. So my comments today are not that ChatGPT is the future. It's that AI is the future. And I'm going to show you just a couple things in some of our software pieces of the puzzle that we're putting together that help us think about how AI should be utilized. The fact that AI exists is not the interesting thing. The fact that you can have a chat with a bot that is pretty personable, the more you train it, the more personalized it can become. And it's, let's just say its presentation to you comes across as very reasonable, authentic, and sometimes entertaining, depending on how you train it. This is a huge leap forward, right? The old Turing test is something that um, the brilliant mathematician Alan Turing came up with, basically saying, the key to that is if you can't tell you're speaking to a robot or some sort of artificial intelligence, then it passes the Turing test. And I dare say that ChatGPT 4 especially could pass that Turing test multiple times. Not only can it pass that test, it's passed the the medical MCATs or whatever the medical tests are, and the bar for lawyers. Like this is a extraordinary. It's not like it's when it gives these tests that it's somehow structured in such a way to help it. It can just be given photographs or documents, and then the system can be instructed to interact with those data points in an interesting way. And to me, this is the most fascinating thing, to be able to give an image to an AI and have it describe the image to you in light detail or excruciating detail or whatever you want, and then to build things out of that is really extraordinary and I think quite exciting. So let me just share a couple things that we're doing that we think are interesting, and I'll try to keep it brief and light as well. So we've got a little something called SOP box, and SOP box is it's already open, but we're holding the release of 2.0 so that we can get this ChatGPT integration finalized. But I'm going to give you a quick preview of it today. So imagine you already have some SOPs, or you want to create new SOPs. You can just go into how to create a new item in Amazon Seller Central. By the way, I have not pre-prepared this, so I don't know if it'll work or not. But once we click on the save the first time, it goes and runs around and it tries to get an answer from ChatGPT about a structured SOP response. So this is beyond just simply saying, give me an SOP for this. It's like, give me a description, give me a background, tell me the requirements to execute these instructions, and then, of course, the instructions themselves. And while this thing is processing, and by the way, this is not us, it's them, ChatGPT is still slow. GPT-4 in particular is very slow on the processing and still has constraints on how much processing you can do, even through the API. And so that limitation exists. But anyway, as you're thinking about this, I think the enemy of all things in business is the blank page, right? And so we went from a blank page, we typed in a title, how to create a new item in Amazon Seller Central, and then it came back with a description of what it is, why this is important from a background or contextual standpoint, and then what are the requirements that we need to be able to fulfill this SOP. And sure enough, we see, step 1, step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and on down the line, all the way through to completion, right? So it's a 14-step process right there. And if we like that, we can say, you know what, I do kind of like that. I'm going to put it in a category. Let's just say that it's an Amazon item detail, and I'm going to click on save. And sure enough, it says it's saved. And so if we click back to the main section, we can see how to create a new item in Amazon Seller Central. And sure enough, there it is. And now, by the way, SOP Box works by using a little, well, it's an extension of Chrome. And so this just little slider box. That's why we call it the SOP box. And if I make sure that this is synced up, we have a good chance of seeing this how to create a new item in Amazon Seller Central. So this is the precise one that was just created. So it gives all the description, which breaks down the background, all that stuff, and then the step by step. And so this is again to us a really important thing. No longer do you get kind of saddled with this blank page. You can create SOPs or checklists or anything you want using AI in a structured environment that you can deploy to users and administer and maintain without any problems. So that's a quick SOP box kind of view that shows unequivocally that AI can accelerate the workflows. And there's no question that that is true. Let me just show you a couple other examples. So in the big picture, we say, how do you detect what you want AI to do? And the question is answered by saying, well, we need to create our settings. We need to understand what prompt. The tone of voice is really important. Who is your target audience? And then you can start logging in those completions. And so we have different methods. So I'll just give you an example right here. And we'll just say 5 ways to improve, let's say, improve sales on Amazon FBA. And we'll assume it's going to know what we're talking about. Oops, I pasted something in that's not what we wanted. Let's try it again. And so that's both the title and the topic. Our audience will be e-commerce company owners. Tone of voice will be, let's say, persuasive. And we'll go for 5 topics here. I'm going to click on save. And then we get the topic ideas. So this is now going to ChatGPT and it's saying, hey, just give me 5 topics for blogs. And it's giving you punchy titles based on the tone of voice and your audience. So in theory, it should appeal to the audience and it should be in a tone of voice that matches what we've put in. And by the way, the structure of this can easily be decoded, if you will, by saying, what model are you using? How many tokens are you going to use? What's the length of this thing? And then what is the prompt itself? So this is what was sent to ChatGPT. Now, you may be an advanced user, want to know a basic user, or let's call it a typical user wouldn't be somebody who needs to know that. So they may not have that available option, but they do get the results, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. So I'm going to click on save again because we've got these 5 ideas. And now I'm going to just say, you know what, give me a blog on each of these. And we'll make it just a little longer. And so now the blogs are being created in the background. Because it takes time for processing, we don't want to do that live and keep a user tied up. So now we can say to ourselves, all right, well, when we see it come up, it'll show up in the blog post list. And the way we know it's working is there's something called background jobs. And you see right in the background, it's now scheduled and things are being done. And I'll just go back here to the blog list, post list. And sure enough, you see the first one, unlocking the power of Amazon's algorithms, 5 tips to boost your FBA sales. And then here's a little intro, right? And then here's the blog post itself. Now, we are all aware that there could be hallucinations by AI. That's what they've coined the phrase hallucination instead of just saying the thing is wrong. So it's important that you think about how to edit these and deal with these. But getting complete information, right? This is an entire blog post with the titles or meta titles, descriptions, keywords, all designed to prepare. And let's just say for the sake of discussion that we wanted to get an image for this, OpenAI image. This is going to Dolly now. And let's just say we want e-commerce sales maverick. You guys are all mavericks. I'm sure of that. And let's take a look at 4 options. And I have no idea what it's going to give us. As you know, the better prompt you give it, the more precise the response will be. I gave it something quite generic, and you see here it's got some ideas of what a maverick might look like for e-commerce. So if we wanted, we could attach those and insert them into the blog. And all of that is kind of an integrated workflow. I'm not going to bother to do that at this moment because it's just for a demonstration. So I've given you kind of a practical application of how you take a blog post topic and then create the blog post like lickety split. It's going to do those 5 blogs. And if we want to make it do 20 blogs or 50 blogs, we can do that and it'll just work in the queue. That same concept applies to any concept. So I've got what we call Hey OpenAI, and we're going to use actual data in the database. So I'm basing it on a doc type. That means something in our database. And I say, I'm going to, in this case, it looks like I went for bullet points, but I'm going to say a product description for this item. And I've already pulled up the item, but I could search for any item in our database. And I don't want to search. I want to know what I'm looking for because this database has, 100 plus thousand of them. And let's see here. In fact, I'm going to clear this because I already had a prior response going. So doc type, I'll just start from the top here, show you item. Now, if you're on the audio version, it's harder for you to visualize this, but imagine just going to an item in your database, selecting that item, selecting the tone of voice that you want and who the audience that you may be selling to is. And then you're selecting a particular length of the reply that you're looking for. And I'm going to do, again, a product description. And so that's about a paragraph long. And the system already knows you want an item, it's this item. We're going to do a product description. And this particular item is like a Qi charger. And so right now, once you click on the go button, the system will go out and it will find basically the answers to your question, right? And you wanted a one paragraph in this case, product description. And sure enough, there it comes out of the system. Now, there are ways of improving that content. One of the ways is to check your settings, and this applies to any AI model. There are basic settings you need to be aware of. So in this case, we had 3.5 turbo going, just so it won't take us so long to show these demos. GPT-4 will take longer, and therefore you have to be cautious of that. The default temperature, an important thing for you to consider. And the default temperature is 0.5, I think, by most people's default, which is halfway between creative and halfway between strict. And so if your temperature set to basically 0.1, it's super strict and not creative. If it's set to 0.9, it's super creative and probably more often going to be wrong in those cases. So I don't want to hang out too long on the tokens, but the whole point is by putting process in place, you can establish good quality outputs, right? So the output is not a question of, does AI work? Yes or no. It's like, what was the quality of the prompt? How was it structured? And then indeed, what are the components of that prompt? And in our case, we want to create almost like guardrails. Instead of our people having to remember, don't forget the target audience, don't forget the tone of voice, don't forget the temperature. Like, instead of having them make all those settings, why not craft each template? So think of it like a prompt template in such a way that produces a predictable outcome. So I'm going to go ahead and come back in here and just show you some of the different prompts that we've already set up. So I've already shown you the blog post topic idea, right? That just comes back with the ideas. And then we've operationalized that by making blog posts. The one-shot blog post is down here somewhere. But you see lots and lots of different things we can create, including email frameworks, including, just give me some engaging questions. This might be used in social media. Give me a creative story about this subject or that subject. I need punchy subject lines, right? We can go into a subject line and say to ourselves, well, gosh, let's go in and try that one just for fun. I'm going to clear this prompt out. And let's just say that we need a punchy subject line. Let's see. No, we're going to do predefined. And we don't need the category. We're going to do subject lines. And we're going to say it's exciting. And our audience is e-commerce company owners. And the subject is, I don't know, why do sourcing in Vietnam, right? That's something people talk about. And when we click on the get response, now it's going out, hitting ChatGPT. And again, if you're the audio listener, just think of it like literally you typed in almost nothing. It used the template, and then it comes up automatically with some subject lines, basically for your emails. Experience the magic of sourcing in Vietnam today. Say goodbye to sourcing woes with Vietnam. And I think it likes the exclamation point at the end of these. So it's using that. Maybe that's what qualifies as exciting. But the point is, all of these, I think there's 10 of these that are all in pretty good shape when it comes to being viable. Like, there's none of these at first glance that I would say are terrible, but AI does deliver sometimes terrible responses. So don't get convinced that AI is perfect. My whole point here is that as you start to think about AI, I want I don't want you to think about it in terms like, does it work or does it not work? Because that's not the way it is. I want you to think about which AI model are you using, right? And there's a formula I'm going to share at Kevin's $1 Billion Seller Summit that basically takes all of the input components. And if you want a powerful output, something that's really, really powerful, you really got to know each part of this formula. And you guys can deduce the formula yourself, but I'm going to give my view of it, both each base criteria or variable, if you will, since we're talking about mathematical formulas. And then if you do this, it goes to the power of 2 or 5 or 10 or 100, depending on how well you get those prompts structured. And so again, I think Kevin's got a webinar coming up for $1 Billion Seller Summit where I'm going to share how to use ChatGPT to get world class. I'm talking about superhuman responses for Midjourney, which is pretty amazing. And then, of course, I'll be speaking at various places about this topic in the upcoming future. So if you're looking forward to learning more about this stuff, I certainly welcome you to, come and hang out with us. If you haven't already, go over to sopbox.vip. It's a website, and you can sign up to get on the Launch 2.0 list. It's going to be pretty awesome to be able to just simply open up your browser and create an SOP in a structured, predictable format that works with the entire system. And the ChatGPT will give you those answers. So no more blank page problems. By the way, you don't have to have your own ChatGPT. We're just going to include it in any paid version. And the free version will include some number. I don't remember what the number is, some number for free as well. So we'll always have a free version and we'll have a paid version, but it's going to be, let's say entrepreneur friendly. All of our efforts are to make sure that we bring great tools, world-class tools, and put them in the hands of small and medium-sized businesses. So anyway, I appreciate everybody who's out there, and I hope you're having a great day. I'm sorry I don't have more time to make recordings. My Retirement 2.0 has been busier than you might expect. And for those who don't know, Retirement 2.0 for me just means I'm working on stuff that I really, really enjoy, which clearly includes AI. I think you can probably tell I'm upbeat and optimistic about it. And it also includes, spending really the amount of time is not the limitation, but it's the most time on the most fun stuff and with the people that I enjoy the most. And so that's entrepreneurs for sure. So again, thanks everybody. We'll see you around the water cooler. And I hope that, you take the time to dig into this a little bit and don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can just go to steve@parsimony.com and email me. Although I don't do one-on-one advice or counseling or what have you, if you have questions or things that I can direct you to a resource, I'm happy to do that. By the way, Empowery has a great curated course. If you go to Empowery and find the education link, we just put together a bunch of AI ChatGPT specific videos on YouTube in a structured format that help you get some background. So if you don't feel like you know enough about it or some of the reasons why it can be, life-changing. This, by the way, this is not like, somebody invented, the telephone or somebody invented even electricity. This is like some caveman just came out with the wheel and fire and civilization will change forever. And that's really where people are terrified of AI. I'm far more excited than terrified about it. And I encourage you to get really good at it, and then you'll have nothing to fear. The future belongs to those who understand kind of how it works and the technological foundations of it without being in the weeds, and then how to maximize it, which means becoming a prompt engineer. And the more you think about it systemically, the more you think about it from a long-term, how do I empower my team? How do I get predictable results? The better off you'll be. And that's as always our mission. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this. If it's useful, leave some comments, share it with a friend, do all the things that social media people love, and that'll make my life easier. And I appreciate it. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.